Hello and welcome to the Figments in Time podcast. I'm Lewis,
I'm Val.
and we're here to talk about going to Disney World or theme parks, really in general,
Yeah.
with party sizes that are different. And we're bringing this up for a very certain special reason. We went on a meetup a few weeks ago, and we
Right.
want to just keep talking about that as long as we can to keep
No,
the
I don't want
keep
to
the
let
love
it
rolling.
go. Don't want to let it
But
go.
we'll get there. So first, we want to talk about our normal Disney trip. And maybe this isn't normal for you, and maybe if you have young kids and you take them with you, one day this will become normal for you as well once your kids have their own lives. But our normal life is just me and Val going together. That's our
Right.
typical trips,
Right.
and it works, right? We have a fairly shared mind, and we can generally work out what we're going to do in a way that isn't too much trouble.
Most of the
We
time.
we have completely different ideas in our heads of what we want to do. Like, I get laser focused on rides. I don't
Yeah.
like to spend a lot of money. I want to go eat as fast as possible. But some of us have different opinions of how they believe a day should go. Like, what do you think a day at Disney should be like?
Well, I'll be honest, my days and what I'm able to do has changed dramatically. Because I will say, when we first started going to Disney and to Dollywood, our goal was we would hit the park at rope drop. We would do attractions as many times as we possibly could, especially the ones that we loved. And we were there until what Disney calls the kiss goodnight, which is when the little voiceover comes and the music starts and they basically are telling you the day is over, get out of the park. But they do it in a very sweet, kind, nice way. But
Dolly has the same thing. There's a song they play right at the end of every day
yeah,
that just says,
yeah,
"It's time to go."
it's time to go. Just
And they are mean
yeah,
about it. They are much more strict about getting you out of the park. When the park closes at 9, they would like you out around 9. Their one shop near the exit. There's a couple things that stay open a little bit longer,
Yeah.
but for the most part, everything else is shut down, and they're like pushing you out with some from the security guards.
Right, because that's
Disney
different.
gives you about an hour at least.
Yeah, Disney, they shut down the entrance to the queues at 9. So if you can get into a queue at, like right before 9 o'clock or 10 or whatever time they're closing for the evening, then you have that opportunity to be in the park a little bit longer and you can kind of enjoy it a little bit more empty and, scenic. But so, yeah, so that was always, pretty much my goal. I mean, I would have liked over the years to have done certain things. I always wanted to go to Chef Mickey's for breakfast, and I always wanted to try the Hoop-de-Doo review, and I wanted to go, to Disney Springs and do some of the things that there were there more often over the years. And like we said, Lewis just was very much, this is we spend every minute in the parks that we can. But over the last few years, because of my health issues, I can't rope drop and stay the whole day at the park and just go constantly. So that's afforded me the opportunity to kind of do some of the things that I enjoy doing more by myself.
But let's be honest. You always wanted to go to those places.
Yeah.
You would have been happy if we were going. Let's say even if we were going the whole time, part of your going the whole time would have been to go other places. Go
Oh,
to
yeah.
like, and you always like to get to the sit down restaurants. You always like to.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get those experiences. I wanted to do a Hana. I wanted to do, like I said, the Hoop-de-Doo. I wanted to see Chef Mickey's. I wanted to do all of those kinds of things. But it's and those things are all pricey, and I understand that. So it's not like I wanted to do them all every time, every single visit. But I did like to try to pick some different things, and occasionally I could talk him into it, but more than likely not. We spent most of our years in the parks for those first a lot of years that we went.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so going with one other person that you're simpatico with, that's a great number, right?
Yeah.
And even now we can say, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do this. We'll talk a little more. We'll talk about that later in the show here. I want to talk about expanding it into different size groups. And that's adding family or friends that don't go to Disney a lot. And we've done this quite a few times with our
Mhm.
kids,
Mhm.
with some of our other relatives.
Especially when our daughter was younger, we would often try to take one of her friends along with us, or a cousin along with us, or somebody. So she wasn't just always, especially when she was a teenager, so she just wasn't doing Disney with her mom and dad all the time. So we would have people come along with us occasionally on those trips. And then again, like you said, we had sometimes brought family along with us. So it's always fun.
But as you add people, especially of different ages, you get different needs.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at this. She will attest to this. I think everybody should be exactly like me. Probably because if you've seen me, I'm a very large person. I'm not super athletic. I'm not, you would not think of me as as the person who's going to be like the most energetic, right? You would think that guy's going to want to sit down, get a hot dog, and just relax. But I don't. I don't like to relax. But the reason we became addicted to theme parks was keeping busy, and I generally will keep busy, even when I'm down, when I'm hurt, I'm crutches, or I can't ride anything. I will still go a lot to take pictures and just
Mhm.
keep going. I mean, I'll sit and grab something to eat. And if you're Dollywood, it's hard to turn down a funnel cake when it comes by, or the Sugar Queen food truck, which is fantastic. I get the feeling they may be ending that. Man, I missed the Sugar Queen pretzels. They were fantastic. So it's an interesting dynamic when you add people who aren't part of your normal group.
Also, when you have people with you that don't normally go to Disney a lot, or go to the theme park that you're going to, maybe it's their first visit, it's the first time they've been, or they haven't been in a really long time and they're not super familiar, you want to make sure you get certain things done. Like you have different goals on those trips, because when it's just you and me, we if we miss something, it's okay if we miss something because something is down or we can't get to it, because we're going to be back in a few months. But if we're taking somebody with us, if there's family with us that only goes once every few years, or may not ever go back again, you want to make sure you hit all the highlights, and you want to hit what they care about and what they want to do, like the things that are the most important to them. So that changes the way you structure the trip. It changes the way that you function during the trip, because you have a specific purpose.
This sounds like what an intelligent, kind, non-selfish person would actually want to do. It's not generally my thinking, though. I'm thinking they're going to just integrate into our party. Let's just go. Let's just go. And I was shocked when we went with the whole family, and they were teenagers, and I mean they weren't like young teenagers. They were like all 12 or something. They were, one of them was like 18, right? It was pretty old. I was shocked at how their energy was different than mine. I guess because I'm used to like keeping a steady pace, whereas other people are more used to burst energy and then napping or something. All right, so that dynamic was different. What's really hard is getting a group of people together that are just friends, who are all of like mind. I mean, if you live in Orlando, or you live, that maybe that's different. Dollywood's not like that. I have a group of friends that I talk to about Dollywood, but we haven't really gotten together yet. And the next time we're supposed to get together, I'm actually going to be out of town for another thing. So that's been different. It's nice. I've got these online groups where you talk, and you talk to people, but getting people actually together in a group is difficult. I mean, people have lives, right? It's not, you
Well,
can't
and
just,
it's always interesting for us too, because for us with friends over the years, nobody has been that we've been friends with in our lives through work, or through family, or through have these people have not been as committed to Disney fandom as we are. Like we had not met people just in our own circles that loved going to Disney as much as we did. And it's the same with Dollywood. It's you find people, in your life that enjoys going to Dollywood or would like to go to Dollywood, once or twice, or maybe go with you sometime. But to find people who have that same excitement and commitment, that like to go a lot and that enjoy specific things about Disney, we had just never had that before you met Jocelyn online.
It's Yeah. kind of like some of the professional stuff I'm involved in. I know a lot of people who are programmers like me online and are really into, they want to go to conferences, they want to speak, they want to do kinds of things. But a lot of the coworkers I've had over the years, I mean, they're good. It's not like they're bad. It wasn't their thing. They didn't want to go to conferences. One of the first conferences I actually got to go to was because my coworker didn't want. My coworker who was more senior to me said, "I don't really want to go. You can go." And I was like, "Yes." And that kind of got me going. Finding a group of people who are Disney fanatics like you is hard. I mean, and when I say like you, there's a lot of different types of Disney fanatics.
Right.
We're more attraction related, a little bit of nostalgia related. And when we met, when Jocelyn started having some online meetups, that was just so great. And then we had an in-person meetup, and we had this group of people who were all generally of the same mind, going and riding, and Jocelyn was leading us around like a group of ducks. It was a fantastic experience.
It really was, and it was so funny because Lewis, I was not as active on social media as Lewis when we first met our group of friends, and so I actually really the first time I knew most of them was from that first meetup that we went to that Jocelyn led, and so I was kind of going into it like I don't know any of these people. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I don't exactly know what we're doing, but Lewis was super excited about going, and because he had been talking with people for a while at that point. And so I just sort of went in with a little bit of trepidation going, okay, let's see, how this goes. And with Jocelyn's meetup that very first time, it was just a very short, it was just a part of a morning at Magic Kingdom. And I think we were there from like 8 to maybe 2 or something like that, I
Yeah.
think the first time. So it was just a few hours, and, we Jocelyn had some very specific attractions for us to go on together. She kind of planned it so we would be organized and kind of do this, and we just had the best time. It was so much fun. And because I got to meet them in person, then I started following people on social media and getting a little bit more in the conversations, and then the pandemic hit.
What was funny was how introverted most of the people there were. Not
Yeah.
Jocelyn, of course. He's
No.
very not introverted. Awesome. But we met these people who we talk to all the time now, but it was like, it's good to see you. And everybody was like just kind of sheepishly. The people who hadn't met each other.
Right.
And that can happen in a larger group too. If you don't know everybody very well, is there going to be cliques. And some of the time the cliques aren't because they're like, mean people. It's because they just know somebody. I'm very much guilty of this myself, of going to conferences and just talking to people I know,
Right.
because I know them and I'm comfortable with them. I don't know these people. They may be the people I want to know, but I don't know them, and so I'm gonna just. Which has been an interesting change to my job now that I have to actually go out and find people to work for me. But.
Well, it was interesting because once the pandemic hit and we were sort of all, in lockdown, we decided to get together every so often on Zoom with this group just to talk about Disney, just because literally, none of us had anything to do. All of our travel, all of our work things had been canceled. And so we were all, sort of at home going through the pandemic, and the opportunity that we had to do that together, just be able to talk about something that we love and something we were excited about. And so we just talked Disney memories and Disney favorites and all of these kinds of things. And that led into us getting together more often with Frank and Jen, who are Dillo's Diz on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the things, and with Justin Monorail. And so, they started doing a little live broadcast during the pandemic together, and we, started hanging out with them once a week on their podcasts. And it was a lot of fun. And we got to know each other, and we got to know more about Disney and talk a lot about Disney and the things that we love about it.
I'm just going to say that you just broke a lot of people's hearts if
What?
they remember that show,
Oh,
because that was the best.
that was so much fun.
It was like a carnival show, and it was just a silly hour we got together every week. We do some things similar now, but there was just something about those shows. It was,
Yeah. Like I said, we were all kind of going through this time together, and we just supported each other. And that was what I said was just so amazing, because with the last couple of years that Lewis and I've had, with a lot of illness and hospitalizations and a lot of different things between the two of us, I said, I was so very thankful for our Disney friends, because they were the ones that, they checked on me and sent us things, and, texted me to make sure that we were good and what we needed. And literally, like I said, we would receive packages from people with goodies and treats and different things that just were encouraging during this time, where not only were we dealing with a pandemic, but we were also dealing with these illnesses that had hit. And so it was just, I know that I'm sure that I've said this before, but I was so grateful just for the friendships that we've made through our Disney community online, and just how much they have encouraged and supported us over the last few years. It's meant so much.
all right. So moving past the Love Fest here, we'll continue on. So recently we had a meetup, the Dillows Community Core meetup.
Yes.
And this was like the best time I could imagine getting together with a group of people, because we all just we talk a lot online. Go check out
Dillos
Dillows
have,
Resort. I mean, don't.
yeah. Yeah. Dillos
This is
Resort. They have a 1-channel Discord.
this is
And
not a like a closed society or anything.
no.
We talk a lot together online, and we all sort of have the same sort of feelings and understanding about what we want to do when we go on a theme park trip. And we just, it was just amazing. I enjoyed the times we weren't in the park as much as the times we were in the park.
Well, that was one of the
really
things.
great.
One of the things that I said to Jen at one point, because we were just sort of hanging out at the Grand Floridian in the lobby, just sitting and chatting, because we decided, and I think we'll talk in a minute about all the things that we did. But I said, the testimony of Lewis being with us, as opposed to saying, I'll catch up with you at the parks later, and him just going straight to the parks. The fact that he was just hanging out with people when he could have, during times when he could have been riding attractions in a park, said a lot about just how close our friendship is and how much we enjoy just hanging out and talking with everyone. So
I will admit, I do have a little bit of a FOMO personality. I'll put up the address for dillowsdiz.com. You can go check that out. So it's not super surprising. What's super surprising is that I didn't complain, even to you.
He did not.
There
He
you go.
did not say one negative thing.
Can't believe these people couldn't get a ticket. Let's go to the parks, man. I mean, there was a lot of sugar to be eaten that day. So,
well,
we ate at Ohana.
Well, I think let's start with Thursday night. We all met at the Skyliner at Pop Century, because we stayed, I think, we mentioned, I think in the last episode, we stayed at Pop Century so that everybody, so we were together, and we were at the Skyliner Resort. We met on Thursday night at the Skyliner, and we took the Skyliner over to Epcot so that we could walk across the bridge to the Beach Club Resort. Because one of the Dillows' favorite places to go is Beaches and Cream. And they have a lot of history. They stayed when they were kids at the Beach Club. And so over these last couple of years of listening to the Dillows podcast and being friends with them, we've learned a lot about the things that their favorite things. And so we had the opportunity to go to Beaches and Cream. I was thrilled because I have wanted to go there since we first started going to Disney, because I'd always heard about it. I had listened to another podcast where a frequent guest, was always wanting to stay at the beach club and always talked about beaches and cream. And I had never been able to get Lewis to go to check it out. And so I was
Too
really
far.
excited about having dinner there. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said it's too far.
I've always wanted to have dinner there. I've always wanted to go just check it out. And so we just had the best evening hanging out with them there. We were hoping to go to Jelly Rolls and it didn't quite work out, but we did go another place that Lewis and I had never been before, and that was the Abracadabra. And it was just such a cool little place. It had all sorts of, magician things and trinkets and things to see. And it was just so much fun. And so we sat and just sat and chatted for the night. We had dinner at Beaches and Cream, and then we did a little bit of a tour around the beach club resort. And then we went and spent the rest of the evening at Abracadabra. And it was just a lot of fun. We had a great night.
And then we had to leave and get back to the Skyliner. Everybody else was very late, but
that was the only bummer. And I know that I would not have been able to walk from the Skyliner to the beach club. So I needed to have the scooter, but I was so sad that we had to leave early because the Skyliner ended at 10 o'clock or 10:30.
10:30. An hour and a half after the park closes.
An hour and a half. Yeah. An hour and a half after the park closes. And so I knew we had to be back at the Skyliner by 10:30 for me to be able to get back. And I think all of our friends stayed a lot later, and then they just Ubered back to the resort after they were done. And so it killed me to leave them early, but we did have a lot of fun while we were there.
That's where we learned our number one tip. If you have a scooter and you have to ride the Skyliner, don't show up at the last minute because everyone else does too.
Yeah, it took a while.
We talked about that before.
Yeah.
The other thing we did the other thing that was interesting about this night was we had 4 tickets. We had 2 reservations for 4 people to get 7 people in, and they worked it out. We had one of the people that was with us, Jeffers. He was working the reservations. We had like tons of reservations that nobody had planned on, and we thought we weren't going to make Beaches and Cream. We had other plans, and then this one just worked out, and it was kind of amazing.
Yeah, and it was a great meal. It was a great chocolate shake. It was really a lot of fun. We had a great time. So then on Friday morning, we decided we had tickets for the Not So Scary party for Friday night, and not everyone in our group had a ticket for the park for the day. So what we decided to do was to do a monorail resort loop. And so we drove over to the Poly because we had breakfast at Ohana, which is another thing that Lewis and I had not done together. And so I was excited about the Ohana breakfast. And so and we got to see, the Ohana breakfast is a meet and greet. So there were characters. And I wish, honestly, that was the quickest meal we probably had. They served us really fast. They finished really fast. And I think Frank mentioned when we did the recap with them that he thinks that Ohana does that to get everybody out to the park, so that because they know most people are headed to the park for the day. And so they try to make it really speedy. And I kind of wish we hadn't gone so fast, because it was nice just to sit there and talk and enjoy the characters and the music and everything about it. But we had breakfast, and then we decided to, kind of take a little tour around the Poly. And then we did the monorail loop to see the construction at Epcot. So we took a bus from Epcot over to Port Orleans because we really wanted to have some beignets. And we got the opportunity to have the Haunted Mansion beignets, which I didn't think I was really going to like because we've already had this discussion about marshmallow. But oh my gosh, they were amazing. They're my favorite. They're my favorite beignets now.
Yeah, I don't love beignets. I mean, they're good, but you have to like dunk them and stuff and make them really good. These were good. I mean, they were donut good. Mm-hmm. The stuff.
And we've done beignets before because we used to stay at Port Orleans and at the French Quarter a lot back before we were DVC members. So we had tried the beignets before. And so it was fun to be back there, but just to be back there with our group. And so it was really fun. So we had a great morning before we all went to take a quick nap before we hit Not So Scary.
I will say these beignets were better than the last beignets we had. I remember them being like mostly air. And these were very much more cakey than I recall them being. Then we went back to the room. We tried to go back to the room. We ended up at the Hollywood Studios. We took a bus from French Quarter to the Hollywood Studios. Then we were gonna get on the Skyliner and be back.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Time. And
it started lightning.
we didn't see lightning. We didn't have rain. We didn't nothing. It just, but there was some lightning in the area, and then we had to wait for a bus.
It took a little while because buses can be a little crazy sometimes, and so it took us a little while. But we were able to go back to the room and take a quick nap and get kind of changed and ready. And we've already talked about Not So Scary, so we're not going to take time to talk about it again now. But I will say again, just in case you didn't hear last episode, we went as a group. Liz and I don't normally dress in costume for Not So Scary, but as our group, we decided to get AFC Richmond shirts because we all watched Ted Lasso together. We really enjoyed Ted Lasso. And so we decided to go in our AFC Richmond jerseys. And so I will say, when we talked in our last episode about how great Not So Scary was and how much fun we had as a group, but it was also so much fun for people just to be yelling, "Go Richmond" and "Richmond forever" and all that for the night. It was a lot of fun. So we enjoyed it.
So at least I want to show a picture of our costumes and us here. This is from the Dillo's Diz feed. So we had these great costumes. We're all dressed up in the AFC Richmond gear. And then we got this picture from the photo pass people. I like the person giving us a side eye on the left there.
I didn't even notice that because my eye goes to the skeleton. We had so many people that were just so great about our jerseys and just so encouraging. So it was a lot of fun.
So yeah, that was something. Like, that was the first time we've ever came close to wearing a costume, but Not So Scary.
Yeah. Normally we just wear our Disney Halloween gear and T-shirts and things, and so it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was good. And then Saturday was our day at Hollywood Studios. #AlwaysMGM.
Rode rides a couple times.
They started off the morning at Oga's. We opened Oga's and closed Oga's. Well, I say they did. I didn't get to. We had some things going on, and I didn't get to be there on Saturday morning for Oga's. I missed that. But they started off the morning at Oga's, and then, which again, it was one of the things that I told Frank and Jen that I was so excited about, because Lewis will begrudgingly go to Oga's with me because I love it so much and he really doesn't love it. And so I was excited about going with people that, were actually excited about being there too. And so it was really a lot of fun to be able to go with them. And so I hate that I missed the morning, but I got there in time to do a couple of the attractions before we had lunch at Roundup Rodeo for the first time, which was a lot of fun. We talked a lot about that on Frank and Jen's podcast on Dillo's Diz about Roundup Rodeo, and the food was great and we enjoyed it and it was a lot of fun, and I love the theming and the things that cast members there do to make it fun. There's just constantly things going on around you and the moments that you have to freeze because Sid is coming or somebody is coming and you have to freeze. And so it's a lot of fun, but it did cut into our day big time. We were there a couple hours. And so that was one of our longer meals. And it wasn't necessarily because we made it long. It was just very long. It's served as family style. And so you have, the salad and your appetizers and then your meal and then your dessert. And so it was just all very slow coming out. So it did take a long time, but I mean, again, I don't even think I processed in my head at the time how long. I think Frank was nervous because he was wanting us to do certain things, for the day. So I think it was more on his mind. I was just enjoying sitting there talking to everyone. So, for me, I didn't even notice how long we'd been there.
And I was super tired by then. My feet were killing me. That 2-hour break really helped. Very much helped.
Yeah.
So I do have a quick picture of Oga's this is where we started.
Yeah.
I did actually make it to they got, I think everybody else got there about 7:30 or something. I got there about 9:30. So yeah, we had this group of people. Justin Monorail was there. We had a few guests over the weekend. Skipper Bob showed up at Ohana.
Yeah.
And then, we finished out the day at our own table,
That was
which
awesome.
is honestly kind of a misnomer. There were two people sitting here on these seats.
Yeah.
The way they seat people at Oga's, you think, why do I not like Oga's? There's two reasons. One, they need food, right? They need food, and they don't have food.
They don't have food because 45 minutes is your time. Even when you have a reservation, you are allowed 45 minutes in Oga's because it is
I should
super
still
crowded.
have some nachos. I don't care if they're space nachos. I don't care if they're blue. I don't care what they are.
They have Batu bites, which is sort of like a trail mix kind of mix. It's so good. I love the Batu bites. And then they have a charcuterie. The charcuterie, though, it's a little odder. It's not as tasty to me. I don't love it as much, but I usually get when I get the Batu bites along with my my carbon freeze drink, which is like a little fruit drink that has the boba in it, and I love the food so much.
A little bit of food would be better. I don't mind a drink that we don't drink alcohol, but the non-alcoholic drinks are fun
and really good.
The salt around the cup of the bottle is good. The one thing I would say is the way they seat people is weird. We had 2 4-people reservations in the morning. Again, because it's hard to find an 8-seat reservation.
Yeah.
Many times we found the nighttime was an 8-seat reservation, but one of us was at one bar. One of us is one of the little standing things. The last time me and Val tried to go, we were standing, and it was it's torture. I can't stand up like that. You can't say I need a seat.
You can ask for. We have gone and asked before for a booth, and it's just a longer wait for your reservation for them to put you in a booth, but they can, if you request it. It just might be a while before you can get in. I enjoy it because, and again, this is just the personality differences. Like when I went with the kids in June, and Lewis wasn't able to go, and so we asked for a table, and so we were at a table. There were 5 of us, and then there were 5 others that were on the other side of the table. So like we were in half, and I loved it because we chatted with that group and enjoyed meeting them and finding out, a little bit about them and talking to them. And so I love getting to talk to people and learning about why they love Disney and what they do. And because I strike up conversations when we're at Disney with people all the time, it's just kind of what I do. But Lewis is not so much like that. So I get why he doesn't enjoy Oga's.
I don't mind striking up conversations with people. You don't want to be forced into that.
Well, it was so funny
forced to sit at a table with someone. It's just it's weird. I talk to people like in the single rider line at Everest. I talk to people a lot because you're in the same line. You see the same people. We start laughing. We have some sort of connection. I know there's some connection about being in Oga's and Star Wars and all that, but
it is. Well, because you've got the Cantina type music from the movies playing and the characters, and you've got the DJ Rex, and you've got the cast members are so into it, and they all have these things, and it's just, to me as a Star Wars fan, as much as I love Star Wars, I feel immersed when I'm in there, and so I love it so much. And it was so funny because like the people that we were sitting with when I went with the kids, when we were getting ready to leave, one of the guys kind of stopped me and he said, "I'm sorry, but can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Do you really like it in here? Like, do you really enjoy this?" And I think he must have maybe thought that the kids had drugged me, but I actually drugged the kids there. And I told him, I said, "I love it in here. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love people. I enjoy being here. I like it so much." And he said, "I do too." And then he kind of pointed and he said, "But my husband hates it in here." And I laughed and I was like, "My husband hates it here too." I was like, it's not for everyone. And I get that. I wish they had made it bigger. I don't know why they didn't make it bigger, because it seems like it would have been, I know that they were going for a feel. It's sort of like how I feel about Harry Potter at Universal. I love the Harry Potter areas at Universal. I feel like they're too small, but I know that the reason why they're small is because they're small in the movies and they want you to feel like you're there. And so I get that, but it's also really hard to enjoy it when it's super crowded. And so that's the thing about Oga's is that it is always super crowded. I was not expecting it to be as crowded at 9:30 at night as it was, considering the park closes at 9. And then our reservation was 9:35. And I thought, oh, maybe we'll actually, not be, but it was packed just as much at 9:35 as it is all throughout the day. I mean, there were people everywhere. So it was
less busy in the morning. That was why
I can
everybody was sort of
imagine.
annoyed that they had to stay over there and we had to stay over where we were at.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I get why they do it, but and again, we had to leave because we had to get to the Skyliner, and our friends didn't have to worry about that as much. So they were going to hang out, I think, a little bit longer than we did. And then I think they decided to leave at the same time, and they caught up to us, but
they beat us there because of the
scooter. And so they ended up, heading back too. So it was a fun day. It was a fun evening. I didn't want it to end. We had to leave really early Sunday morning because we needed to be back. Some of our friends stayed longer, and I wish we could have stayed an extra day, but it was just a lot of fun.
All right. So that's, the joys of going with a larger group.
Yeah.
The downside of the larger group is any one of us was a jerk. Any one of us was annoying. Could just totally throw off the whole day, but this
is perfect.
It's totally perfect.
It was. You couldn't have asked for it to be more fun.
So to finish out, let's go the other direction.
Yeah.
Let's talk about going solo.
I would love to have a solo experience someday. I have yet to have that.
You had a day or two.
No. That's what I was getting ready to say. That's the funny thing about Lewis. Lewis has FOMO so bad that there have been very few times that we were actually at Disney and I planned a day by myself because he had a conference or he needed to work or something would happen. And I will tell you that I would maybe be 2 hours into my day and I would get the text message or the phone call. You know what? I figured out how to do this. I'm done. Okay. I'm going to come and meet you at the park. So I have never even truly had one full day solo, but I have had solo moments in the park because there have been times that I would have gone by myself to the park during the day for a few hours at least.
Let it be known that when I'm down there for business, I do not skip the business to go to Disney World. Okay. I don't do that. And that's pertinent to the next topic.
No, but he might skip like hanging out after things with people to come to the parks though.
Maybe in the past.
Maybe.
Yes. No, not now. So let's talk about the joys of going solo are that there's pros, there's more pros than cons. Oh, let's put it this way. There are so many more cons and so many more pros to going solo. It's like the number you get of people, it gets worse, but by yourself, there's a few problems. One, it can be boring because, if you don't have something you're doing, you may just like go, I'm not going to do anything. You don't have anybody to share it with. You don't have anybody to see what you're doing. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you're like swinging really high on the swing and your parents aren't looking at you, right? Look at me, I'm swinging. You're like, whatever. It's just stupid. But that social aspect is missing. And even if you're an introvert, even if you're antisocial, you have people in your life that you probably want to be social with. So there's all that. There's all those negatives. The positives, on the other hand, are that there's nobody else to go, I don't want to write anything. Can we eat now? Can we do this? I'm tired. It's just when you feel that way, you go, okay, I'm gonna quit writing now. I'm gonna quit doing this. I'm gonna quit doing that.
I think Lewis mentioned it before, but like for me, whenever I would plan a solo time at the parks, I do things like I will plan a breakfast. Like one time I planned breakfast at Kona at the Poly. And so I started off there and then I took the monorail around and rode the monorail. And then I came into the park and I did the Haunted Mansion a few times and got to do, just sort of all the things that I love to do. I usually will stick a journal in my bag so I can find like a really pretty spot to just sit and write or just to enjoy people watching and maybe strike up a conversation with somebody else that's sitting somewhere. And so I always have these sort of plans of this is my, I talked to somebody this week about this because someone on social media that I follow was thinking about planning a solo trip to Disney without her husband and without her kids. And she made the statement, "That's a bad thing to do, though, right? I feel really guilty." And so one of the things that I said, I actually, DM'd her and said, "Just want to let you know, Disney is a great place to think, to relax, to have fun, to be creative, and just to sort of recharge your batteries." And so it's great to be able to go alone. I mean, it's wonderful to take kids with you, obviously, and we love to take our kids and our grandkids, but it is a lot of fun just to be able to go and unplug and just have fun and be a kid for just a day and do whatever you want to do on your own. And it is a good thing to do.
One of the ways we make it fun when one of us goes by ourselves, and the last time she went by herself, she actually went with our kids, so not by herself, but I had to stay home because it was my turn to stay home. Is we give each other missions to do.
I started this a while back because Lewis like I mentioned, Lewis has gone a lot to Disney without me.
Lots strong term.
And so one of the trips when he was going, and I was just sort of like, he was kind of doing the, "Oh, really? I'm going to miss you." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. You're not even going to think about me." And so I said, "You know what? I'm going to make sure you think about me at least once a day." I didn't want him to take too much time out of the day. I wanted him to have fun. I wasn't trying to make anything miserable for him. So I gave him some missions to do, and nothing too big. Like one of them was to have a picture made with Sophia or Doc McStuffins, and he chose Sophia. So he because I knew those lines were a little bit shorter. I didn't want him to sit for an hour and a half and wait for our Anna or Elsa. Like I just, and so I gave him little things like that he had to do at each park. Just to take a few minutes out of his day to remember Val is not there. And so it was just a lot of fun. And so we kind of made this a tradition. So whenever he goes on his own, I give him missions. And then he gave me missions when I went with the kids since he couldn't go.
What's honestly weird about our missions is that we usually overdo them. When you're coming up with the idea, you're like, "Oh, I'll never do that. That sounds," and then we'll overdo it. We'll keep going. Her missions were like take a picture of certain things, and she'd take pictures of everything. So,
oh, it was so funny because I had him. I told him he had to take Pal Mickey with him, and I had one place at each park that I wanted him to take a picture of Pal Mickey with, and he ended up taking Pal Mickey with him on every attraction. So he ended up doing this whole series of pictures with him and Pal Mickey. So, and it was the same when we were with the kids. We were supposed to do things like anytime he texted, but we were sending him pictures all day long. So it was constant. So, it becomes fun. We want it to be fun, but so this time, because I'm going to ask our friends in the community core to help me come up with missions for him. So I'm going to have some help being creative. Thank you for spending time with us today.
yes, it's been fun. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.